Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jobless MA, the highest level of cage fighting discourse on the internet. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you do, I'll have my secretary send the Addy for my next Rager.
Team Jobless. We watch fights together. We drill technique together. We grow together. And we order ladyboys together. Fellas, we are back with another video. So I was going through the comments I got on my video yesterday. I think it was on one of my UFC greatest nicknames videos. And the guy's like, yo, do the mythical MMA fighters list. And I was like, yes, of course, of course. It's a great video idea, guys. The classics are classics for a reason. So without further ado, we're going to do this today. One thing I want to note about my list here, guys, is for me, mythical MMA fighters are, you know, they have their best performance in the cage, okay, during these kind of mythical eras. So I'm really choosing guys who, when they had this mythical version, they were at like their best form, okay? So like there's other ones, you know, that are like more like what's the word for it? They're more like joke related or meme related. You know what I mean? Like blonde Dan Hooker or like salon quality Poirier, things like this, right? But the performance doesn't really track as much. They're not like notably better in this mythical version than they usually are, you know? So I'm looking for guys who are like notably better. Like the first guy, or not the first guy on our video today, but one of the guys on our video today is going to be motivated Mcgregor, okay? When Mcgregor was motivated, I'll talk about the time he was, and this is like when he was at his peak, obviously. It's a classic mythical fighter. You'll get what I'm saying as we start going. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. Starting off, pretty strong. We've got racially motivated Drew Dober.
Thoughts on injuries, especially Negroes? I don't know. Thoughts on injuries? My opinions are like they suck. They're not good.
Okay. This happened during a 3-fight win streak he had a couple years ago, right? I think we all remember this. This meme, you know, definitely lasts to this day. 3-fight win streak, KO's Bobby Green, right? Was really getting kind of outclassed in that fight, and then he just catches him with something huge up against the cage versus Terrence McKinney. In that fight, that was a complete, you know, barn burner. They're going back and forth. Guys, Terrence McKinney actually just got announced to fight Kyle Nelson. I saw this 20 minutes ago. Pretty excited for that one, okay? I don't think Kyle Nelson has the firepower to deal with this guy. You need to have a lot of firepower to deal with Terrence McKinney. Don't think Kyle Nelson does, but regardless, you know, back and forth with Terrence McKinney, finishes Terrence McKinney. Then he fights Rafael Alves, you know, this is the fight where the classic clip of Alves, you know, rope-a-doping and dancing and evading the shots came from. Beats Rafael Alves, okay? This was a 3-fight win streak against some, you know, somewhat decent fighters for Terrence McKinney, for Drew Dober, in an otherwise, you know, kind of a win one, lose one type of career that he's had. So racially motivated Drew Dober, we've seen the memes that come from it. If he's up against a black guy, he is definitely, you know, he's getting some attribute boost points. Okay. He is, for my FIFA players out there, he is in form. Okay. He is in form. Up next, older entry here. We've got, I'm calling him BLM Alexander Gustafsson. Okay. So Alexander Gustafsson, just a broad trend in his career, guys. When he fought against white fighters, he was very, very good. Okay. He was very, very good. He was beating some of the best white fighters in the world, but when he got to the top of the division and he started fighting against black fighters, he was absolutely cooked, okay? So the 3 big ones I can think of would be against Daniel Cormier, right? Against John Jones. He lost to John Jones twice. Obviously, first one by very, very close decision. Second one by submission. And then he also got dominated by Anthony Johnson. Rest in peace to Anthony Johnson, too. I should probably make a video on Anthony Johnson at some point, you know? Very, very sad that you know, he passed away recently. So BLM Gustafsson, yes, he was taking a knee in these fights. He was posting, you know, a black square on his Instagram story. He was giving back to the African American community. We love it. We love it. You know, we love it on this channel. Very, very inclusive, of course. Up next, a lesser known mythical fighter. And one that when I looked at the research into this, you know, I looked back at his record and I started thinking about things. Oh, this makes a lot of sense. I've got Fight Night Neil Magny. So in general, and there's maybe one outlier to this, I would think about the Mike Malott fight that was on a pay-per-view. Neil Magny's best wins of the past, you know, 7 years, 8 years, recent wins have all been on fight nights, okay? And when he gets to a pay-per-view, he kind of folds. This isn't completely guaranteed, you know, like he did, you know, get KO'd by Carlos Prates. Also, like I think the Michael Morales loss was also on a fight night. But guys, some really, really nice wins on fight nights for Neil Magny, okay? We're talking about the Jake Matthews win recently, fight night. Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos, also kind of recent, fight night. Daniel Rodriguez, fight night, I think that was like 2021, Max Griffin, Jeff Neal, and Robbie Lawler. All of these were within the past 7 years, all of them on fight nights. Okay, so Neil Magny definitely on fight nights is kind of a different beast. Okay, that's when we see the crafty vet come out. He's pulling out some pretty crazy dubs. So fight night, Neil Magny, someone to contend with for sure. Up next, this one to me, it is performance based. It is performance based. I'm gonna go with Let Me Bang Max Holloway. So in general, guys, this could also be pointing to the center, Max Holloway. I wouldn't really say that this is like this is like a part of a fight, mythical fighter, right? So this one is basically when Max Holloway points to the center, every single one of these exchanges he's ever had, he wins every single time, okay? I can think of 3 big ones off the top of my head. The first time he ever did it at featherweight with Ricardo Lamas, he was fucking piecing him up. Then he did it against, well, he's probably done it more times, guys, but I'm thinking about the 3 big successful ones. Obviously, did it against Justin Gaethje at UFC 300, leveled his shit, and then did it in Dustin Poirier's retirement fight, pointed to the center, bro, and he was giving Poirier the fucking work, okay? He was, ripping him to the body. Poirier was actually clinching, okay? And that's rare. You don't see, you really don't see Poirier go for clinches in the middle of the cage, okay? Maybe against the fence in a certain moment, but guys, he had Poirier clinching for life in the middle of the cage. So, yeah, definitely Let Me Bang Holloway, bro. He gets +10 to punch power, punch speed when he points to the center of the cage, usually at the end of fights. Okay, very, very concerning stuff. Up next, the OG mythical fighter. This guy created this conversation I'm having right now. Of course, I'm talking about Level Cain Velasquez. So Cardio Cain, right? That was his nickname. The guy had amazing cardio. He'd push the pressure on guys, look for late TKOs and stuff, grappling. Kind of I don't want to compare him to Merab, but I guess in some ways you could compare him to present day Merab, right? So Cain Velasquez was probably at the time the best heavyweight of his era. He was going on a crazy run. His record was like 12-1 or 13-1 or something. He was like fit. He was really putting work on everyone. I think of one of my favorite Cardio Cain performances, definitely being against Brock Lesnar. He weathered the early storm, had way more gas, took him down, TKO'd him on the ground, but this all ended in his fight against Fabricio Verdum in 2015. So this fight, many of us will probably know the story of this, but it took place in Mexico City, right, guys? Mexico City is 7,000 feet above sea level. Also, the population density makes the air quality quite poor, okay? I think there's like 25 to 30 million people that live in the metro area of Mexico City. So in this fight, guys, the cardio that Cain had always banked on, it completely, forsook him. Forsaken him. I don't know. I've never really used that word before. Forsook him. I think that's probably a word, but yeah. Early in the 3rd round, Cain Velasquez gasses out, gets finished by Fabricio Verdum. And Cain Velasquez was really never the same after this. But I think that was more about different factors than cardio. Eventually, like, he just got old, his knees gave out, and father time catches up to everyone. But guys, when Cain Velasquez was at sea level in his prime, this dude, had cardio for days and he was finishing everyone. Up next, probably the second biggest guy you think of when I talk about mythical fighters, and I mentioned him earlier, we have Motivated Mcgregor. Yeah, Motivated Mcgregor, basically it lasts up until he wins the second belt against Eddie Alvarez, right? So his entire, early UFC run, Diego Brandao fight, Poirier fight, Holloway fight, Marcus Brimage. I'm trying to name more off the top of my head. I have to sit down. Chad Mendez, obviously. But basically after the Alvarez fights, he stopped being motivated, guys. He stopped being hungry. Okay. So we all know this. When McGregor was motivated, that was when he was at his most dangerous, bro. He was a serious force to be reckoned. Oh, Jose Aldo fight too, obviously. He was a serious force to be reckoned with. But once he got that second belt, man, he kind of relaxed, and now he's really unmotivated. Okay. We've seen new forms of McGregor, coked out McGregor, things like this. So really, really not good from Conor McGregor. But yeah, when he was motivated at that moment in time, there was no stopping him. Okay. One of, I would say him and Level Cain are the 2 guys. They have to be on every single mythical fighter video because they really started this conversation. Up next, probably my favorite and, in my opinion, the most deadly mythical fighter. Okay. I'm talking about 3rd round Yoel Romero. So, guys, this was really interesting. When you go back and you look at Yoel Romero's record, like damn near every KO he had really in the UFC, every big finish he ever had was all in the 3rd round. Okay, he would lock in the 3rd round. I got a list here. So in 2022, he beat Melvin Manhoef in the third round. Yeah, Melvin Manhoef in 2022. 2018, the devastating KO against Luke Rockhold. 2016, the devastating KO against Chris Weidman. 2015 against Lyoto Machida. Tim Kennedy, 2014. Derek Brunson, 2014. So a lot of his best finishes in his career have happened in the third round, okay? And something that's interesting about him is I don't think this one is chance. I bet you it's like a mental thing with him. Like that, maybe that's even his game plan in these higher level fights is the third round he's locking in, because this cannot be, an anomaly with the amount this has happened. You go look at his record on Wikipedia. When you see the green, when you see the KO, right? It's always the third round. So this guy in the third round was a different type of beast entirely. Up next, I've got post nose surgery Dricus du Plessis. So Dricus du Plessis coming up in the UFC, guys, he was winning fights. He was winning his early fights. I'm thinking about Brad Tavares. I'm thinking about Marcus Perez. I'm thinking about the Trevin Giles fight, right? He was winning these fights, but he wasn't insanely impressive. And also, these guys were kind of low level, right? But before the Robert Whittaker fight, so after the Derek Brunson fight, he got surgery to fix a deviated septum in his nose, guys. And this unlocked like peak Dricus. Dricus got way better after this, okay? I'm talking about the Robert Whittaker fight, and then we're getting up there, kind of towards the title, the Gynosanya fight, all these things, the Strickland fights. He got considerably better. His cardio got considerably better. In his first fights, they were very, very sloppy. And then once he fixed his nose, bro, his cardio completely locked in. And this guy became someone you would think of as like kind of a cardio demon. Okay, that's kind of what you think about him now. Nowadays, I could never imagine him really gassing out. I mean, we saw it in the Chimaev fight. In the last like 2 minutes of the fight, when he was finally able to stop the takedowns, he's up there like slinging leather, like slinging heavy leather, even though he's been held down for 23 minutes. So Dricus du Plessis, after nose surgery, obviously very, very, key character in this video. Up next, another one of these goats in the conversation of mythical fighters, of course. I'm talking about Alistair Ubereem. So this was kind of from like 2010 to 2013. Basically, so if we've seen the younger Overeem, if you guys like watch Pride or like K1 or anything, he was quite skinny back in the day and he took some bad KOs. I'm thinking about his KO loss to like Chuck Liddell and Pride. Yeah, he was very, very skinny. He was kind of like a middleweight back in the day, but guys, he really locked in on his nutrition. I'm going to call it nutrition. Yeah. He started drinking more protein shakes and going in a calorie surplus. You know what I mean? No, not really, bro. He was actually like, he had more juice than Tropicana, bro. He was a giga fucking juice to the gills. So 2010 to 2013, he wins the K1 World Grand Prix, right? Super awesome. Goes over to Strikeforce, becomes Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix champion. And then the peak where the famous photo comes from, of course, his KO win over Brock Lesnar in 2013. This was like, in my opinion, the most jacked UFC fighter in history. This one moment in time against Brock Lesnar, goes out there, TKOs him with a body kick, super duper impressive. It ends after this, the chin always like you can't inject yourself into having a chin, right? So that's kind of what went down for him. Also can't really inject yourself like skills, like grappling skills. But for this 3-year run, guys, the Ubereem was like, he was a fucking beast. Okay. And to many still maybe debatably the best fighter in UFC history to never win a title. Up next, this was super duper fun to watch. I'm talking about Blonde Brunson. So Derek Brunson, they put him up against Edmund Shabazian on a fight night during like COVID type of times. And Derek Brunson dyes his hair completely blonde, guys. And he's like a plus 300, plus 350 underdog, something crazy like this. He comes out and he actually beats the hell out of Edmund Shabazian. One of the more violent beginnings I've seen in UFC history. Bro, and this started a 3-fight run where Derek Brunson was all the rage, bro. Derek Brunson, Blonde Brunson, was super duper violent, okay? So he comes out, he beats the shit out of Kevin Holland. Then in his next fight, he beats, the crap out of Darren Till, right? And then he fights Jared Cannonier. And unfortunately, he loses this fight. But guys, people forget, man. Yes, of course. Guys, he comes out and he drops Jared Cannonier like in the first or second round, just drops him badly, almost wins the fight. He fights Dricus du Plessis, low key, almost wins the fight. Okay, so Derek Brunson with the blonde hair, he was like actually a fucking monster. Okay, this guy was no fun to deal with. He was locked in. He was a lot more patient than we've ever seen before. Not really rushing into his takedown attempts. we all remember the Brunson blitz. That's one of my favorites. I probably will do a signature moves in MMA video, and that's going to be in there. Okay, the Brunson blitz, when he's sprinting at someone with both hands out, you know, like a little Minecraft, like a baby Minecraft zombie, just like trying to get his hands on you and just tanking shots. So he really kind of locked in, became more patient, just a lot more dangerous in this time period. We've got a couple left. So Gynosanya, right? So before the Paulo Costa fight, Israel Adesanya was undefeated, right? He was undefeated. He fights Paulo Costa. So before that fight, you know, the photos of him having gyno, you know, the sack around, you know, he's got a little booby there, and he's like, no, I wouldn't say that, you know, no. This is from weed. Yeah, he says it's because of weed and it's like estrogen or something. Guys, I'm a former drug addict. I was once smoking like 40 grams of weed a week, and I never had gyno, okay? Never, ever once had no. I never once had gyno. Yes, I never had gyno. So, but, you know, he says it's because of weed, but we all know it's probably because of the steroids, guys, of course. He knocks out Paulo Costa, okay? Probably the best performance of his career, considering who Paulo Costa was at his time. This is probably my favorite performance from him. And then he goes on a nice little run, okay? He fucking beats Marvin Vettori. He beats Robert Whittaker. He beats Jared Cannonier, and then he goes 1-1 with Alex. Okay, so 1-1 with Alex, I like that. I mean, that's not bad at all. Okay, you know, standing TKO'd by Alex, then knocks Alex out cold. Low-key kind of got the better of that. So, yeah, Israel Adesanya, right when the steroid allegations were at their peak. Gynosanya, this guy's a mythical fighter. He would that was the best part of his title reign right there. We've got two left. Another GOAT in the conversation. We've got TRTTOR. TRT Vitor Belfort. So this is from like 2011 to 2014 at middleweight in particular. You know, he had been really good at light heavy early in his career, but this was the middleweight run, guys. And he was a serious business, okay? Obviously, he was doing TRT. In 2014, you know, they caught him, or they started testing more for TRT, and then, you know, he had to reel it back, and he wasn't quite as good. But in this run, guys, his wins over fucking Michael Bisping with the head kick. He has the spinning wheel kick win over Luke Rockhold, and another win over Dan Henderson, guys. And that's an amazing run to go on. Look at those names. Michael Bisping, Luke Rockhold, Dan Henderson. Wow. Like, that is kind of a generational run from Vitor Belfort. So, yeah, this guy was very scary, okay? He was jacked. He was using all types of techniques, you know, really special stuff. And then finally, the last one that I really like is knocked down Charles Oliveira. So this one, basically, guys, when Charles Oliveira gets knocked down, at least in the past like 5 years, and there's other, you know, versions of Charles Oliveira that could definitely be mythical, like lightweight Charles Oliveira. You can make that a mythical fighter if you'd want to, or like blonde Charles Oliveira. But guys, when he gets knocked down, he's quite dangerous, okay? And I'm, of course, talking about his title reign, where this happened against Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje. All three of these fights, he gets knocked down, and he gets up, and he's like incredibly more dangerous, you know. And there's some other guys who could be mythical fighters who would kind of fit this same description. I'm thinking of like bleeding, like just bleed Nate Diaz. You know, when Nate Diaz gets cut open, he locks in, or like Yuri Prohaska after he gets cracked. Okay, those guys could also be mythical fighters. Some guys, it just takes them getting cracked in the face to lock in. So, boys, that's going to be the video. Like I said, I was looking for guys who were like particularly good at fighting in these peak phases. Okay. But there are definitely some other ones that are like more kind of memey, you know, like I think of Minority Killer Quillen Salkeld, right? That one. But at the same time, guys, Quillen Salkeld is undefeated, and he's had some really good knockouts against, well, actually not really. I probably should have put that one in here, man, now that I think about it, you know, because I'm maybe a little biased because he just beat Jamie Malarkey, but still the majority of the wins are against minorities, right? So, yeah, I don't know. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Any other video suggestions down below, bro? I'll be sure to get to them, man. I'm trying to rip out an upload every single day, okay? At least until I start my job, which is, you know, like two-ish or three-ish months away. So I'm trying to be very locked in for you guys, make hella good content. You know what I mean? Hey, guys, hey, y'all have a good day, man. This has been Jobless MMA. Peace.